Welcome to Dan and Dave's Garage, and on this episode we're working on this 1974 Kawasaki G5 100. This is a 100cc two-stroke, and if you were 12 years old in 1974, this was probably your first bike. You were probably ripping it up and down the road with your friends without a helmet on and just having a blast. Now, I bought this off Marketplace for just 160 bucks. Which is pretty insane because it doesn't get you a whole lot these days. However, it also did not come with a title, so that threw a lot of people off. But the bike's mostly complete. It's mostly there. It's obviously, it has a couple scars on it, but it's got really good bones and it's a good foundation for what I think we can do and just put it back on the road. Seller actually claimed that he had it running about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the only reason why it didn't run was because it had a broken fuel line. So first of all, I'll show you guys that this thing is not locked. It actually turns over and it's got pretty healthy compression. If I can get this over, geez. As I said, it's got some wear on it, but it takes a little bit of effort. You can hear it. It's not locked up. Really good chance that we can get this thing running. But first, let's fix that fuel line. And we're gonna take this cover off. Okay, not as bad as I expected to look like, but we do have some some shells of some sort. Cool. But here you see we have the original fuel line. And again, just pry this guy off. Here we go. Done. I cannibalized the filter off the other KD100. I don't want to just shove rust straight into this carb, so I'm going to put it in here. Supposed to be on, and that's off. This is reserve, and I'm not seeing any fuel come out, but oh, we got some fuel. Okay, and before we try and start this, let's make sure there is some two-smoke oil in here, which is actually mostly empty. Well, took the whole bottle. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that we actually have spark, because otherwise we'd just be wasting our energy kicking it over. So we're going to pull this off, and first thing I noticed as well is that this is a Bosch plug. Original was supposed to be an NGK, so they got the wrong plug in here, but okay. Cool. It's seen better days. It's like trash on it. You only need fuel, air, and spark to run. So now that we got the fuel going in, we have compression. Now to check for spark. So we should be able to see a nice little blue spark here if we ground out the spark plug. Nope. Pretty nice, and you can hear a little thump thump. So we do have compression. So we'll get this back together and we should be able to kick it over and see if we have any life. Okay, I took the cover off because I have a suspicion that we're not getting any fuel to the carburetor, and oh, there we go. Now do we have some fuel coming in? I think it doesn't like this bend. Let's try and turn the fuel off. Spill fuel everywhere. Okay, that's less of a ridiculous bend, but fuel should be coming in now. Maybe the float's stuck, I don't know. Okay, now that we look in here, we can actually see fuel squirting. So we should be good. Choke on. I forgot that there's an off switch. That's fine. Works. Also good to know it'll run even without the key in it. That small burst of excitement smoked out the garage, and now that we know it runs, let's see if it rides. Yesterday was a smashing success. We got this thing running and riding. I think, however, it was a little bit too easy, so we're going to step up the ante and we're going to try and take it out on a trail. From yesterday's little test rip, we learned a couple things about this thing. One, it definitely needs new tires bad. That's just visually apparent. But two is the clutch barely works. This thing is just slipping all over the place. You can hear it on the video where I give it the beans and it doesn't go anywhere. Not because this thing is slow, which that is also true, but because the clutch is slipping and it's not actually putting any of that power down to the ground. So we're gonna have to check and make sure that this actually has oil in it. I didn't even check. And if it has oil in it, we'll see if we change it out, if it gets any better. And if not, we'll be measuring the thickness of the plates. The next step is actually to make sure we have fork oil. The seals are obviously blown. I'm pretty sure all the fork oil has blown past the seals and is just riding down the forks. So very, very bouncy, bumpy, whatever. But those three things I think are gonna be the bare minimum to get this on a trail. You know, if we get on a trail and it leaves me stranded, it's good content. Anyways, let's get started. Let's drain some of this oil out, if it has any. Okay, here is actually the oil fill for the gearbox, and directly at the bottom here, there is a big bolt, and it is a 17 mil. Oh, crack that loose, see if anything comes out. Well, I'm glad to see that there's something in there. It is a little sparkly. See some glitter in there. There's also an oil level indicator right here. We have to undo it, and we will set the bike straight. So we'll stand it up straight, and we'll get some oil coming out. So we're good. Oh geez, and the kickstart went up. Oh, now we can see how much came out. It's a lot less than 600 cc's. Yep, 600 would have been here. And actually I just checked as well that it's supposed to be 660, so, you know, just a little bit higher. But yeah, we're just above the 400. Definitely low on oil. We'll see if that works. This helps out the clutch. Oh, my light fell off. Okay, the clutch is feeling a little bit better, so we're moving in the right direction. What I'm gonna do is, since I did a couple more laps off camera around the yard, got some heat into it, I'm gonna drain it and refill it again, so we'll have some nice fresh oil. Next, I wanna check the actual clutch cable adjustment. I'm gonna order up a new one, but there's a perfectly good one right there. So I'm gonna swap it over, see if we can get it to feel even better. Okay, I've spent most of this morning trying to adjust the clutch. I'm just unable to get the clutch to actually grab. So I think we're gonna have to do a little bit more surgery, be a little bit more invasive, and pull the clutch discs out and measure them, both the spring height and the clutch disc thickness, to see if they're within spec. I've been reading the manual and I just can't get it right. So I'm assuming this clutch is worn out. Now, judging by the condition of the bike and the fact that it has 5,500 miles, pretty rough 5,500 miles, I would not be surprised this clutch is worn out. cleaning up around because we're gonna have to pull this cover off because the clutch is under here. Everything else in front has to come off. Someone actually previously bent this. There's 2 screws to undo it, but since it was already bent, and there's a circlip in there. So I pulled apart the clutch pack and everything looked good, except I found a broken clutch disc. I think this is probably the issue. So definitely gonna need a new clutch. I've been measuring these. They are within spec. The service manual says limit is 2.8. New, these are at 3.2 millimeters, and these are measuring at 2.9-ish. They're about halfway through their life, except this one that had broke. So the springs here you can measure as well, and new springs should be about 21.6 millimeters and a service limit of 20. And so we are at about 20.3, 20.5, you know, they're depending on where you measure on the spring. So these springs are kind of weak. They're on their way out. We have a broken clutch disc. Just gonna get a new clutch kit and we'll be good. Okay, a new clutch kit has come in. It's been a couple days and we have new discs, springs, and friction plates. So next thing we're gonna do is actually soak the clutch discs. Yeah, we'll let that sit. And in the meantime, I'm gonna date with a plastic razor and the engine case to scrape the gasket off. Okay, now it is time for reassembly of the clutch. So here we've got the clutch basket. This just slides on, get it there, and then sits nicely. Next, there is a washer. We then next have the clutch wheel. And then next are gonna be our friction discs. We'll all alternate, dip it in the oil, and in we go. Like that. All right, next we have our clutch hub, and we gotta line these up. Okay, here we have our circlip. Next is the spring retainer, and then the hardware. So, we got another one. Just evenly run these down. And torque for these is between 35 and 45 inch-pounds. I'm looking at my spare parts and I found this. And also noticed that I forgot to put the washer before the circlip. So, important. Done. Okay, it's been a couple of days. We got the clutch back together, but now we're just waiting for some parts to show up. And the big thing is these inner tubes and new tires actually showed up, so we can go ahead and do that. Still waiting on a gasket to show up. So this cover is gonna just stay off until it shows up. I don't have an actual stand for this, and there's no center stand on this bike. So I'm gonna have to make something up to pull the tires off, but we'll get that done and start taking it apart even more. Okay, now that we got the bike up in the air, we can now start addressing some while you're in there type of activities, such as this chain and the sprockets. So I've actually got new chain and new front and rear sprockets. We're gonna have to take the chain off anyways to get the rear tire off. This is just while you're in there type of work. 5,000 miles on this two-stroke that has seen God knows what. And this chain, you know, at minimum needs adjusted, but side to side play is a little excessive. And this is an old school chain with no O-rings, nothing like that. So these are gonna wear out a lot faster. Let's get started. We're gonna first take the adjusters off, then undo the axle bolt, and probably disconnect the rear brake. Just looking at it, and I think that's about it. And then we should just be able to pop the rear axle out and get the tire off. Okay, and of course I don't know where I misplaced my hammer, so this will do. Please subscribe so I can afford to replace my mallet. Carefully note where all the alignment stuff is. Drum brake. Maybe I should have taken that off. Oh, and it's free. Inner tube actually holds air, which is impressive. Also, I do not have tire spoons for this. I have a flathead screwdriver and 2 pry bars. So we'll see how it goes. Using the incorrect tools like this, you seriously risk scratching the rim. The only reason I'm doing it is because David has a good set with him, and I don't care about scratches, and I want to see if I can get away with it. Okay, that was a workout. One thing kind of interesting, these are actually Michelin's made in Italy. Oh, maybe these are better than the ones I even bought. Too late, because I poked a hole in them, so oh well. Okay, for a new tire, I've got a Shinko SR244. This bike does not need anything special. They were cheap, they were available, and they were cheap. So that's what's going on here. So let's go ahead, get this prepped, and try to slap these on. And without putting a hole in my new inner tube. Putting a hole in my new inner tube. Hole in my new inner tube. Okay, well, while I wait for a new inner tube to come in, we're going to go ahead and take this chain cover off to access the front sprocket, and we'll also start taking the chain apart. Take the shifter off, loosen these up, and it should just pop off. Alright, I'm struggling to take the master link off. Does not want to pop off, so it's going to be easier to take the chain guard and the shock off. This bike's so simple. New day and new bolt because I brutally over torqued the last one. So I can't actually find the torque spec for it. Someone somewhere can probably dig it up, but just looking at a chart, given the size, it's an M8 by 1.25, grade 8.8. It's gonna be about 20 foot-pounds. It says 19, but we're rounding up to 20. Another trick is I have a microfiber between the gears, so I can actually get this to lock. It should click. Okay, there we go. And then now we can actually fold that flap down so it shouldn't come undone. Okay, as you can see, I forgot to press record and the front wheel is now off right here. I also managed to get some Jungle Site Special spoons so we can try and not pop the inner tube again. So let's go ahead, take this off, try and put it back on with a little bit more success this time. Damn it. This is supposed to be on the other side. It's supposed to be right here. Okay, try again. Okay, I may be slow, and I just noticed there's this notch here. And there's a little wedge right here. And these guys line up. Put in this adjustment cable. Next, we can go ahead and do the rear sprocket. This also has the tabs that need to get bent over, so we'll bend those over and just slap this on. I don't know, again, what the torque is for this, but we'll just look up the size and then bend these over and we'll be good. This one's a lot lighter. These are M10 by 125, and looking at a chart for the torque, we're looking at about 38 foot-pounds. This measures in inch-pounds. We can just round up to 40, I think. Make it easy, so 480 inch-pounds. And we'll get this set up and good to go. We'll see if I can even do it. Hold on to it. No, I can't do that. Gotta figure something out. That worked better. So a couple times you've already heard me say we're waiting for this gasket to show up because we got to put this clutch cover back on, but it's never going to show up because I've succumbed to sniffing too many fumes, and I didn't even realize that when I ordered the part off of eBay, it defaulted the shipping to my parents' place. So it's never going to show up here. And that's where this comes in. We are going to smear this goop everywhere and try and seal up the side of the case, put everything back together, have a good clutch, make sure it works, and then we're gonna just go out on a trail. So next few clips, just gonna, be me fixing this, getting it all done, and then I will see you on the trail or have my head in my hands and be crying and be really sad that this doesn't work. So let's see what's next. Okay, well, the RTV was working, and that's not why this case is off. Let's go to the other side and show you what was going on. Well, I was kind of confused why my gear selector was not doing anything. It's not having a positive click like it should have and like it was. This was definitely an indicator that something is wrong. Maybe you guys can see it. This goes actually to the shifter. So if I move the shifter, you can see that moves along, and it's supposed to be down and turning this guy, right? This is the actual clicker to move the gears. That's why I had no gears. Maybe we have to take this clutch basket back off again. We'll see if we can shove this back, try and get it right. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to take the clutch basket back off to get a better look at this and see why it's not doing anything. But now I know how to put it together, so it should be easy. All right, here you go. Now you can see this assembly is here, and what? Oh, that's it. Just had to be pushed in. All right, let's make sure that this actually works. That should be neutral. Yeah. Okay, well, now let's try this again. Okay, the cover is on, and rather than just putting everything back together, I decided that, hey, this is, just sitting out here. Why don't I just pop the float bowl off since this was leaking a bunch of gas? Let me see how it looks inside. Well, you guys ready for the reveal? That is straight up sediment. There's a pan right there, by the way. It's not just on the floor. Maybe that's why the float bowl was being weird. Yeah, but this looks good. It looks fine. You know, I'll blow out some of these jets and I'll clean up this. It will be good. Okay, the engine case is now tidied up. Everything is working. It goes to the gears, tested it out, and clutch is adjusted. So we're looking really good. We're just still waiting tomorrow for the inner tube to show up for the rear tire, and we can finally mount that, and then we'll call it done. But while we're waiting, we can check the oil for the forks. Now, I highly doubt that there's any oil in here, but I have a used old brake line that I made, and I'm repurposing it for a dipstick. We can actually measure from the top to the oil level, and we're supposed to find about 39.5 centimeters, that distance. And that's with the springs removed. So hopefully there's still oil in there, but if not, we can always fill it up. It just takes like a 10 weight oil. So guess what? The same oil that went into the crankcase, we can use for the forks. And this is not a performance machine, and I highly doubt we'd notice if we use fork oil versus engine oil or anything like that. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to first undo the top clamp here, and then we're going to undo the nut and pull the springs out. Should be good to go. Try and see how much oil we have in. Look at this little baby spring. Ugh. It smells so bad in there. Take our dipstick. And it's dry. Very impressive. Okay, I'm just going to start filling up and then adjust as necessary. Oh, too much. Way too much. At this point, I was less than thrilled with the mess I made. I sucked out a bunch of extra oil and tried to cycle the forks, which promptly made an even larger mess and also fell off my homemade stand. Enthusiasm quickly draining, I reassembled the forks and decided it will be a problem for future me. Future me will do the fork seals, I just didn't want to do them at the time because I would have had to remove the front wheel I just reinstalled, and it's way too much effort when I just want to get a baseline on the trail to see how it rides as is, and fork seals in my mind are starting to creep into restoration work, not bare minimum to get it running and riding work. I'm just going to wait until I get the rear tire on and then I can mess around with this later. The new tube finally showed up, so I got to take a stab at it again, and succeeded. This is the last piece of the puzzle before final assembly, holding us back from seeing if all this work made a difference. Where did this go? Okay, it went in here. Let's try this again. Okay, well that looks better, but I forgot to put the chain on. Okay, went ahead, tried to align the chain as best as possible. Don't have a chain alignment tool, but I think I'm doing pretty well. And also, well, now it feels pretty tight. Oh, all right, that's a little bit better. Finally on the ground. Watched you change. Safe to say the work we did made a difference and definitely breathed some new life into this old girl. It was a blast to ride when it worked, so there are still some nagging issues. But let's start with the good. The new clutch works great and I had no issues with it on the trail. The new tires held up as best as they could given that they're not full tilt knobbies on a slick trail, so I'm overall happy with their performance. I'm not even that good of a rider, and in that fast section grabbing some air, we definitely found the limit of the suspension. It was a good thing the forks had some oil in them. But that's about all that I have to say that's good about it. Overall, the ride was as expected with this blown suspension, violent, jarring, vague, and loose. I think either the bars, forks, or both are bent as well. I knew this going into the ride, but these small displacement two-strokes from Kawasaki are glorified mopeds, and that was made very apparent once I found some larger rock obstacles, which completely swallowed the tiny wheels and tires. The lower power as well made it rather difficult to navigate, but at least it was a fun challenge. There is one big issue, and that is just it would not stay running.
Oh, it's bogging. Oh no. What is going on? That's it. That's all she's got.
I'm not too familiar with these rotary valve two-strokes, but off camera I did do a complete removal, disassembly, and clean up the carburetor, so I think I've eliminated that suspect. And I did install the correct NGK spark plug before we went out, but I didn't gap it, so maybe that's still an issue. On the flat, easy sections like the parking lot, it would work great, run with no issues. But as soon as we get some heat into the bike or in some more technical trails, it would start popping, sputtering, and in one instance completely bogged down and died, refusing to restart. Later on, it would run great, and then all of a sudden it started popping and left behind a huge trail of smoke.
What's going on? You guys see all that smoke? Man.
And it took some coaxing to get it to restart. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about what the issue could be, and besides that, I'm really excited that all this effort really was worth it, and with a little more attention, I think we can get this actually running right and street legal, ready for springtime.
Let me know what you want to see with the project. I'm certainly open to suggestions. You know, maybe sell it, get something else that's more interesting, do it again, or actually try and revive it, take it back out here. I don't know, ball's in your court. Let me know what I should do. So drop a comment below, subscribe if you haven't already, because there's a ton of other content like this that, you know, we can do if you're interested in it. But yeah, let me know what you want to see, and see you next time.